Hey guys, how's it going? I'm the Duke of Italy, your favorite lo-fi music YouTuber. And today, this is for sure this time, the last video in this location. My room studio is done. My computer is here, and I'm going to make a whole vlog and probably a bunch of Instagram posts about the computer in this little studio room I have going on. Particularly once I get my speakers have arrived, and I'll change it a little bit with more decorations as we go along, as it's my life, and probably more sound panels at some point in the future, but I will show that in probably the next video. It would be like a vlog of sorts. I'm gonna post it on Instagram so I can get some business. But today we are covering the final part of the Caveman riff chart. We are in the true monkey zone, real caveman stuff. I even changed my contrast just for this video so my face would show a little bit better. And what better genre than gore grind and war metal than for me to be sick for? I'm under the weather. I feel a little like crap. I don't feel great at all. But if I finish this video at a decent time, and then I finish my listening for the night at a decent time, maybe, just maybe, I'll go to bed at a decent hour, and maybe I'll sleep a lot, and maybe I'll feel better in the morning. It's all unlikely, but what is likely is we're going to be jamming to some caveman riff, death metal, gore grind, black metal, war metal, the like. Last time we just entered the real gore grind zone. We really finally got out of death metal, and we covered Dead Infection and Catasexual Urge Motivation. But before that, we of course were covering some really haunting death metal like Pissgrave and Dragged into Sunlight, two bands that I am now a little bit obsessed with. They're both incredible. I should get all their stuff on the CD, except Dragged into Sunlight is so expensive. But today we're starting off with a bit of an oddball. We're not covering gore grind at all. We are covering sort of back to the trends of the first episode of the series, where I covered sort of really early black metal. We're covering really early grindcore, not gore grind, not anything else. Grindcore. This is Repulsion's Horrified, and this album is cool because the vocals sound like thrash metal, but everything else is grindcore. It is a thrashy and noisy album, but it is surprisingly well done. You can tell these dudes knew how to play. It's not like as sloppy as other grindcore gets. The fast-paced chugging that the guitars do is really what brings this genre forward. This feels distinctly heavy for the time. Most death thrash bands and even old school death metal bands don't have this level of heaviness. I mean, you don't need me to say how good this is. It's on lists of everything for best death metal, punk, grindcore, best opening genre albums. It is a landmark of an album for a reason. And there's songs like Black Breath that are straight up banging. This album and Scum by Napalm Death are interesting because they both have different perspectives. Napalm Death had a really punk-oriented beginning, as in their early stuff was literally hardcore punk, and Repulsion, some people say they were a little bit more on the death metal side, and that's how they came in the fray, but that's something to watch Slave to the Grind for, which is a good documentary. You guys should watch it. But this album is fantastic. It's so heavy. It's a little bit early, and it shows some holes in it due to it being so early, but I think for like not following the standard of grindcore to come, it is so just impeccable. It's heavy, it's groovy at points, it's really aggressive, it's really everything you need in a grindcore album. And if you have some bizarre standard that means that modern grindcore has to be the thing, then you're not even punk. So really, this is a pinnacle of the genre. It's great. And next, we're into some real gore grind. And it might sound like a lazy pick for this chart because it's a softball crack out of the park for gore grind, because in terms of straight gore grind, it doesn't get any better than this. Of course, Carcass, Reek of Putrefaction. Probably the first of many album covers from today that I will not be showing the picture from because it's just body parts. Disassembled body parts. It's kind of icky, but as far as gore grind goes, this is a certainly better produced gore grind record. It's a lot less muddy. And of course, people could easily say that gore grind needs to be muddy because it's such a stupidly sloppy genre. You kind of need it to be so filthy that it's like untraceable. Personally, I wouldn't agree, but it's really oppressive and a bit dumb, but it's thick and heavy and grinding. It's about as sloppy sounding as it could get without being a bit comical, but it sounds wild. There are certainly some grindcore elements going on here. It actually feels quite structured and intuitive, like every song has a purpose. and it has like a thought out song structure. And there aren't a ton of vocal effects, which I can really appreciate. I don't need flangers on my vocals. And the whole thing doesn't sound that cavernous. It's not like Blasphemy where the mix is just destroyed. You know, there's actually some space for the power chords to really ring through. And again, power chords. This is not a very smart album, but by all means, it's a good gore grind album. It doesn't get a lot better than this for the genre. There is some thrashier riffage going on here, which is a big contrast to most gore grind. Most gore grind just sticks with really sloppy, stupid power chords. And it still is a sloppy, gross mix, but it has enough room for the bass and the guitars to have some punch to it, which if you're doing such low, stupid tunings with so much distortion, you do want some bassy punch to the whole thing, and not just bassy haze, really. But yeah, it's great. In terms of the genre, it really doesn't get better than Carcass. They also do some other stuff, which maybe I'll talk about someday, but we're in the Caveman Riffs category right now, and maybe we'll cover that stuff later. Next, we get the 1992 compilation of Agathocles, known as Theatric Symbolism of Life. And this is a band with over 200 releases, and this release right here is just over an hour long, which for a gore grind band, that is borderline unforgivable. Why would you have over 200 releases? You know they're not all going to sound good. But this is dumb flanger-filled grind from 1992. Sounds kind of great. It is a bit pretentious with its philosophy concept, and it is certainly bloated, but it is a little dark at points, and it's kind of fun. Another trend is a certified banger that doesn't sound like a song off this album if you hear the sound, but you'll hear that is the titles are weird is what I'm saying, and that sometimes the songs are very good. It is a pretty inconsistent album, and for that I can only really say it's okay. You know, it makes me wonder what about this band is worth checking out that much, why they have a compilation like this. It's sort of like an industrial band's problem where they just have compilations and way too many albums, looking at Knees and Bones in particular. But yeah, it's like absolutely fine. I don't want to say it's a waste of your time, but it kind of is. But next we get some good music time. This is one of the best bands just ever. Insect Warfare split with Carcass Grinder. This whole split is 9 minutes in length. Insect Warfare sure has shorter splits, but do they have better splits? I don't really know. Yeah, Insect Warfare is literally based, and they do no wrong. Their performance is literally perfect. Good variety of songwriting, and it's got a tin can snare that'll send you windmilling into a pit because Insect Warfare is the best. And the whole project is just clear enough. The production's really nice. Carcass Grinder is insanely wild. They've got wild riffs, and they got nice motifs that pop up here and there. And every song has like a distinct purpose. The pacing is exceptional for this thing. And for 9 minutes, you know, that should be a given. But, you know, some bands can't cut it. But if any band can cut it, it's Insect Warfare. And if any band has not enough material because they barely have anything, it's the Japanese, I don't want to say legends, but they're great, Carcass Grinder. And this thing is great. It's fantastic. If you have 10 minutes in your day, go check it out. It's seriously worth every minute of that, every second of that, and you could probably listen to it 3 times before doing a full-length album. And next is Unholy Grave with Crucified. It's noisy and lo-fi Japanese grind, but it is loud, so it's automatically good. But it is pretty groovy, you know, almost like a Grand Belial's Key influence, where there's just some random heavy metal stuff thrown in there. But it does wear thin, like, really fast. It's like, doesn't last with a lot of impact. It's not punchy at all, and honestly the vocals suck, and that's just enough to really make me not love this thing. I still think it's okay, like if for nothing than just the brick wall of noise you have here, and just by how kind of dumb it is, there's a lot of appeal in that, but I don't think that takes it farther enough. And then we get into a band called Regurgitate with, and let me get this pronounced correctly, Effortless Regurgitation of Bright Red Blood. I love the first word there, effortless. Just like, as if you're speaking, you just, and it's like you can hold it up like a square. Have you guys seen that episode of Doctor Who where they do that with Christopher Eccleston? It's the Rose's boyfriend at the time. He gets like a modification to throw up a cube. But we'll speak more about Regurgitation later. We're talking about Regurgitation, the band, right now. There are some flanger on the vocals, but it's not stupidly so, and it is still pretty aggressive, which is nice and necessary. Very grindy, very heavy riffs. The snare really pops and it works really well with the cool little rhythmic intricacies on the guitar. You know, it adds a groove factor, which is something Goregrind really tries to lean into, is grooviness, I guess you could say. When you're being so filthy and stupid, you might as well have some groove. There are so many amen breaks on the drum parts. It's like you have to talk about it. It's so silly how many times this is. This is certainly a silly album, and I wasn't loving it. But, you know, when I was listening to this, I actually threw up a little bit in my mouth listening to it. Like I was working out, put my weights on the ground, and I like went up too fast. That might be cheating, but some bile in my mouth, some bile in the back of my throat, and I felt it in my mouth. I kind of had to just push it back down. And you know, if there's any consolation, you know, like most Goregrind doesn't do that. So I mean, I'll say it's like good. And up next is a band called Zisma. I don't know. They're like Finnish or something. This album's called what is it? It's an EP, Swarming of the Maggots. It's 17 minutes long, and this is a band that's cool because eventually, and nowadays, they just make like stoner rock. They don't even make metal anymore, which is like weird. They kept the same band name, at least a couple of the same members, and they really went through some cool changes. You know, they went from stupid Goregrind to, I don't know, something like Red Fang, but like less cringe. And this thing is raw. It's super raw, and yet it is more clear than most Goregrind somehow. It is dripping and filthy, and the whole thing is like completed with this really deep, resonant bass sound. That's just, it's icky, and it's kind of dumb, but whatever. And by kinda, I mean completely. Like this thing is like devoid of intelligence. There's no riffs here that you really need. It's all texture, and it's a brick of texture. It's a like, it's just a cube made out of a body, and that's what you get here. It's the brain has been shut off. All you get is what you see here. There's like maybe one okay riff, like maybe. It's a bit generic, and it's really not for me. I could imagine those of you really just digging the texture and the songwriting, playing second fiddle, because sometimes there are bands like that, like Reek of the Unzen Gas Fumes is just so furious that you really don't need to even think about the riffs. But I mean, Goregrind is just not something I totally enjoy that much. So I mean, I just kind of say it's okay. And that is it for the Goregrind section, which couldn't have left long enough. Who really needs Goregrind? But what we get now is the final section of the chart, which is something that is so cool. It kind of harkens back to the beginning because there's a lot of blackened influence here. Caveman themed albums of a variety of different genres, and they're all really cool. First off, we get the coolest thing of all time, Neo-Andertals with Ebu Gogu gutting the child. Dudes, Neo-Andertals, let me just for one moment explain this band. It's a two-piece. They play two instruments and do vocals. It is a wife on drums and a husband on guitar, bass guitar rather, and vocals. So not a lot of that DS2 distorted guitar sound. In fact, it's absent. You just get a really chunky bass. This band is from Serbia, and these two live in a cabin in the woods with a car that runs on used vegetable oil from restaurants. These guys could probably go to Norway and dig up Dead's corpse and call him a poser because they're that dedicated to the bit here. This album is as monkey as it gets. It's very avant-garde because the lack of guitar makes this thing almost entirely percussion. The bass tone has quite a bit of mid in it. It's really, really punchy. It's like very like clicky at the same time. And the growls are very deep. It's meant to like mimic caveman sounds. It's really interesting with an overall very percussive sound. There are some songs like Cutthroat that are so groovy. It's also a very dark and atmospheric record. Like if you could tell by this album cover, it's just a thing where the concept is, it's about sacrificing a child for some reason. Like Caveman Warfare is so dark because like I don't even know half the words I can say on YouTube, but it's just like when you fight a tribe, you're almost eliminating like a whole race of proto people, if you will. It's like, it's dark stuff, and that it could also mean survival. It's like kill or be killed out there. This is intrinsically heavy, which makes it great workout tunes, and it is conceptually so interesting. It's not, some people say they're a little off kilter from each other and they don't always match up, but I think it works in a way that is very artistic, in a way that works very well to the concept. It is kind of brutal death metal, if you want to call it that, but it's also just so cool. And this is a band that I really hope drops more material, and I will be checking it out in the future. This thing's great. Living your concept like that is so awesome. And then we get the release Rituals of Savagery by Caveman Cult. And this is noisy and thunderous war metal. It's an excellent blend of caveman death metal and grindcore, and it's mostly played on 2 strings. And for 15 minutes of a demo, you get a lot of impact. It's a shame this band doesn't do anything anymore, because I mean they gotta drop an album, and they probably would have the best merch. The vocals are very much black metal, but they are clearly screaming. They sound pissed. You really got some Have a Hedge, or any black metal band that you can really tell the emotions are raw and real. And it is all completed with a tin can snare. And the last track has the thickest, most punchiest bass. This album right here it's excellent. I love any influence of grind thrown into war metal that helps it stray a little bit further. Grind is just an indicator of passion at this point. When you layer it into another genre, it is just shows it's basically you add passionate or artistic to the whole thing. Because if you shorten it and add these crazy tempo changes or time signature changes, then you show a lot more passion than formula. And this thing is so cool. I'm gonna give this one an award for the chart. This is the truest monkey album of the chart. Thank you, Caveman Cult, for making something so brutal and heavy that I just want to fight. I just want to live in Montana and send messages to tech support people. Well, now that I'm on a watch list, we're on to the next album, The Condition with The Condition. It's a 12-minute EP. It is a prehistoric lizard-themed album, caveman metal release here, swampy death doom. It's super bassy death grind with some really decent riffs, which I like. And the drumming is rather explosive and expressive, which is pretty dope to me. And the last track has some nice doomy moments, which completes the atmosphere of this whole thing. This thing feels murky and a bit mysterious. The doomy stuff on this is really what completes everything. You could have your Caveman Cult stuff that doesn't have as much atmosphere and it's more based on brutality to try and push its image. Or you could have Neanderthals, which certainly emphasizes a bit more of the literal application of the environment that it's imitating to push the atmosphere forward. But here, it's the doom that carries the atmosphere. And I think doom in your war metal is a really interesting combination here. Of course, you're combining black death, grind, and now doom metal. And grind and doom metal, I mean, you got sludge metal, which works, but doom here is something that's pretty rare. So you got this doomy, just horrid feeling to the whole thing, which makes it so much more dangerous feeling. The contrast is really cool. And I think it's good. I mean, it's a little short, but I don't got a problem with it. And you get Antediluvian with Watcher's Reign. This is a compilation of 2 demos, as well as a split release, and it feels primordial. It's really dope. It's not as wild as typical war metal, but it's got a spiritual edge to the whole thing, which is cool. And it is super doomy, really powerful sounding stuff. The Death Doom outros on every part of this release here are all really cool, and they're probably my favorite parts, but everything is good. The mixing and production of this thing, which makes the cymbals crashing and thunderous, adds a whole lot of character. Serpentine Double Helix is probably my favorite track here. It's just a banger. Got to have a lot of emotion behind it, and I think this compilation is actually pretty great. You can kind of treat it as a full length in a way, an introduction to the band sound. And then of course we got Primordial Massacre with the Ascending from Primal Chaos 12-minute demo. It is cavernous war grind, dusty sounding stuff. I like that production can do that sometimes. I need to learn how to mix like that. The vocals sound like actual cavemen, chanting and being weird, or just doing what they should because they're caveman, and that's the correct way to be. In a way, it feels like a modern successor to The Return by Bathory, having a lot of atmosphere carried by its more simple riffs. Pick slides, and as well as guitar slides, they slide from note to note, and it works really well. And it's a simple element, but it's given a lot. And it is raw produced, a bit too raw on the guitars. And this thing is raw. It might be a bit too raw on the guitar front, but I think it sounds really cool. But it's fun here. It's really fun. It's almost great, and they've been busy since this demo. And I think it's just the fact that it's demo quality that it isn't quite there for me yet. So I mean, with the chart complete and this being a good release here, I think we can all be especially happy with the fact that Caveman will be returning with more riffs and more smashing people's heads in with clubs. How were clubs made back then? Were they just like tree branches? Were they bones? I know 2001 Space Odyssey used bones, but that's really besides the point, because I guess we're beyond that, and that will lead us into the end of this little film location. I'm not going to get emotional because I always have to move the bottles of liquid, I'll say, right there. What could the context be with all this stuff behind me? I know, but I always have to move that stuff to record here, and I'm tired of doing that. And if you guys enjoyed this chart, which real stuff, I really enjoyed this chart. This chart was so much fun. It was really stupid. Reviewing it was even fun, though. These have probably been my most fun videos to make in a long time. Just talking about like the stupidest death metal really actually makes me happy. And I hope you guys find a lot of enjoyment in these releases. I hope you guys find some stuff to add to your workout playlists or just albums to work out to. I know that's what I'm looking for with this, and maybe next year I'll be doing a death metal chart in contrast to this year, and then maybe in a couple of years I'll be doing doom metal, big sludge metal stuff. Who really knows what path I will be on here. I've got a lot of videos planned basically until this channel does what it needs to do, but I'm trying to give you guys a comprehensive view of a lot of genres and a lot of new music to be exposed to, and to get you guys a little bit more in-depth and stuff. And what I like a lot about this chart is it gets you a good view at death metal with a lot of popular stuff and a lot of interesting stuff. It gives you a good view of gore grind, which you really don't need any gore grind past this, except for maybe like an album or two. It gives you some deeper cuts. It gives you a whole section of basically the beginnings of war grind that we have today, which now we also have the noise sections of bands like Tetragrammaticide, but that's besides the point. I think this chart is actually kind of fantastic, even if not every album on here is fantastic. All of them are essential, and hope you guys enjoyed it. I certainly did. If you did enjoy this video, by the way, I'd appreciate a like and a subscribe. Any comments, questions, or concerns in the comments section down below, and also down below in the description, you will find my Instagram, Twitter, and my Discord page, which I hope you guys join and talk to me about black metal, blade, shoegaze. We've been talking about some emo recently, and whatever you guys like, because I like all music. But that's about it. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Have a good day.